This is the Real Change Wilmington podcast, episode 19. What's new with the Wilmington Transit System with our guest today, Jessica Powell.
Without the grants, without the funding, we don't have Wilmington Transit. Without, the mayor, without the city employees up there helping us, fighting for us, getting our budgets approved, whether it be HR, whether it be the auditor's office, we have so many people backing us, helping us, just allowing us to do our job so that way we can help the citizens to do whatever they need to do.
What is going on, everybody? This is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce.
And I'm the co-host, Emily Spencer. So much enthusiasm.
Yeah. So we get to talk to Jessica Powell today from the Wilmington Transit System, and it was really cool. She's a super busy lady doing a lot of things over at the transit system. She gave us a tour before we recorded, so that was a lot of fun. I got to see the facilities, meet the staff, see some of their old vehicles and their new vehicles. Really good time. Last week, as of recording this, they had a meeting open to the public, just discussing some of the needs that are in the community for transit and some of the things that they're hoping to do with a new dispatch system and just some of the new services they're trying to offer with extended hours, further reach and so forth. So a lot of cool stuff in this episode. Excited to get into it. But before we do that, life updates from Emily and Dustin.
I thought this segment was called Hot Goss.
Oh, hot goss. Okay. So Emily, what is the hot goss in your life?
Well, even though you've seen it too and you hate it, I saw the Mario Brothers movie yesterday.
God.
It wasn't that bad.
I told her she wasn't allowed to discuss this. It's so bad.
It's not even that bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a Mario fan growing up like I was,
And
it's a pretty
you
cute
have low
movie.
standards. You're going to love it.
Low standards. It didn't have Michael Scott in it, so
Oh.
Dustin hated it. Dustin only just watches The Office on repeat.
Okay.
So, but the movie is decent. Maybe if you're going to go see it in the fancy movie theaters, don't wait for it to come out, but it was all right. What's going on with you, Dustin Pierce?
Well, if you have to know.
Did you buy new pants?
What? Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. No, last weekend, I think on Sunday, I want to say Sunday, my sister had her baby. So her second child, little Avon Miles Drake, existed in the world. I joked with her when she texted me. I was like, oh, yay, Dustin Jr. And she's like, no, actually, it's, what'd she say? Avon Keith Drake. And Keith is my middle name. And it's also my dad's middle name. So she knew that was important to me if I ever have a son to name it Keith as his middle name. So when she said that, I was like, that is the lamest thing you've ever said. How could you do that? Keep my name out of your mouth. And she started laughing over text and said, I was just kidding. I told my dad that story and he started busting up laughing because he knew how extreme I reacted when she joked about it the first time. So
She did this when your other nephew was born?
No, she did it in person when I was at my dad's house. And she was saying, I'm going to name him Avon Keith Drake. I'm like, don't name him my name. Get your own name. But luckily her boyfriend or whatever doesn't, or would feel bad if, she named him after my dad and not his dad. And there's a whole thing. So I got lucky. And she got lucky too. So I would have disowned her if that happened. But anyways.
Check that right off the list.
So without further ado, that's the hot goss, I guess, for today. Let's get into the real content of the podcast with Jessica, director of the transit system, and hear about all the cool things happening there. Jessica, welcome to the Real Change Wilmington podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we got a tour of the transit system. Is it called transit system? There's a bunch of different names, right?
Wilmington Transit System
is the official name, right?
Is the official name.
Okay, so we got a tour before this, so we have some knowledge, I guess, to discuss this a bit more. But before we get started, let's just go ahead and tell us about yourself, how you ended up in this role in Wilmington.
So I've been working for county government for the last 12 years. I worked for Hamilton County. I had multiple roles there, working for Paul Brown Stadium, Great American Ballpark, the parking garages down there. I worked for facilities and then also planning and development. So I kind of moved around, getting more and more knowledge. And then I kind of wanted to get out of the city of Cincinnati and go a little bit closer to home. I found this opportunity and just interviewed for it and Mayor and Brian Scheidecker gave me the opportunity to come down here and show my abilities. So
Okay.
I've
And
learned a lot about transit.
were you doing transit before, kind of, right?
Kind
Or
of, yeah.
parking garage and stuff,
Parking
some
garages,
logistics of
the
that.
transit system that's down in the city of Wilmington,
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, thank you.
Yeah.
By Paul Brown Stadium and Great American Ballpark. So we operate a little bit of that. But
Nice. And you said you're from Goshen?
I am from Goshen, so I'm not
sweet.
too far away.
Nice. So tell us a bit about the history of the Wilmington Transit system itself.
So Wilmington Transit started out as the city cab in 1984. At that point in time, it was ran as a private cab system. Eventually, the city ended up taking it over and getting the grants from the state of Ohio and the FTA in order to help supplement the operating costs. So at that point in time, Wilmington Transit got taken over by the city of Wilmington, started operating as the actual public transportation. However, we've still kind of kept the small town cab feel, just because of the fact that that's what the city of Wilmington citizens really want. They didn't necessarily want the big buses and the ability to load everybody up on one bus and go from one apartment building to Walmart. So now we are working on getting a route that might make things a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, and just make it to where it's more beneficial to more people.
We'll get into that more a bit in a second here. So give us a brief overview of the services that the Wilmington Transit System offers.
So currently we are a door-to-door service. So we can help you get from your door to our door of the vehicle, get you in, get you settled, and then get you to like a doctor's appointment, to the grocery store, whatever you might need. So we help get children to and from school, elderly and disabled to and from doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, out to all the grocery stores so that way they can get food, socialize. Trying to think of other things that there's a lot of things that we do.
You said school. Doesn't the school have a cab service for students?
So they actually have bus service.
Buses.
But
I mean like private, like one-on-one, like.
I don't know for that.
I don't know.
I think it's people. There's a few children that either aren't able to be picked up by the school, or maybe have been kicked off the bus or something along those lines, and then they need an alternate. So that's what we are. We're just there to help out in any way we can.
Okay. And I want to get deeper into the service that you offer, but let's backtrack. Explain your day-to-day role at the transit system.
So I'm the director, and I'm supposed to sit there and look pretty. I'm just joking.
And give people like us tours of the facility.
No, so I do the operations. So I'm very hands-on. If we have snow that needs to be removed, I'm out there removing it. We don't always have the labor in general to actually get everything done. So I've been out there literally opening up gates that are, iced up. And actually, Mayor Stanforth was out there helping me one day, all the way to just cleaning the facility, scrubbing the toilets, just out there driving the vehicles. So it's whatever we need to do is what we do. Whether I'm doing it, our labor, our operations manager, we all get out there and get our hands dirty to make sure that the facility and the system is operating the way it needs to be operating.
Do you ever drive the vehicles?
I do. It's actually been a very eye-opening experience for me. I've been able to actually talk to a lot of our customers and find out what they couldn't do if we weren't there, which is very crazy to me. There's a lot of people that they don't have any other transportation. This is their only means of transportation. So there was one lady that I talked to. She did not have the ability to get to her eye doctor's appointment. She's not able to drive anymore because her eyesight's going away. And all of her family members have actually just recently passed. So it was a situation of she had nobody. So in talking to her in her short period of, just the short drive that we had, I was able to connect with her and find out, what we really do for her. And if we weren't there, what would happen? She'd be stuck there with no way to get anywhere, to food, to water, to doctor's appointments, to anything.
You said that, I guess maybe one of the complaints, if it is one, is that the phone lines get backed up sometimes. But for some of the riders, like their driver and they're interacting with you as like one of their only like social opportunities that they have?
Yeah, we're actually working on getting out there a little bit more. So we're working with the farmers market to set up a booth there and actually be able to interact more with more people, to let them know about our services, what we have available, and then just to get out in the community and see if there's something that we aren't doing that we could be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been there for about 1.5 years, and we've definitely made progress where we are. However, we still have more progress to make. So we're excited. We have great drivers, we have great admin staff, and we're just working to make things the best they can be. So.
Okay, so I want to get into, I have a flow here, and we're getting out with the flow, but it's okay, it's good. So there's a group in town, the Workforce Collaborative, and they're identifying different issues, I think barriers to employment, one of those being transportation. Do you partner with local companies to employ, or to not employ, but to transport their employees to work?
Currently, we do not. We are working with the Workforce Collaborative slightly. We are trying to fix some of the issues that we currently have ourselves before we jump into too much, to bite off too much. So one of the things that we're working with is Share Mobility, who does our dispatch system. They are actually working with the Workforce Collaborative and all of the employers in the area to see what their needs are. So what we need is those employers to actually respond back to Share Mobility and give that information. What do they need? Do they need people, or do they need transit to get their employees to and from work? Or do they not want people who don't have their own transportation?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are their actual needs? Because we can't supply a service to something if we don't have the need for it. So we're just trying to get that kind of defined, along with our transit study that we're doing will help us define what we need to do.
Yeah, we'll get into that transit study here in a second. So where do your funds come from, and what limitations do those come with?
So we actually have 3 main sources of funding. We are locally funded through the city. We are funded through the state of Ohio, through ODOT, and then also through the FTA, which is the Federal Transit Administration. So the 3 of those, obviously, all public entities, it's all tax dollars being spent. So we need to make sure that we are abiding by all of their regulations. The FTA requires us to spend money depending upon the grant itself, how we can spend the money. Like I was talking about the vehicles earlier, they have to be 70% made in America, which means that we can't go out and just see a van on the street and we can purchase it with those funds. We have to purchase it off of a pre-bid list. It's already stated this is what's been bid and these are the specs. It's all set and ready to go for you. So we're not able to just to do things on our own. We have to follow certain guidelines, and that's one of the guidelines for the FTA. For the state of Ohio, we have to put things out to bid just like a normal public entity within the city of Wilmington, same regulations. And then we also have to get things approved through the state of Ohio for anything that's over $5,000. And also through the city of Wilmington to the Board of Controls. So any purchases, things like that. There's a lot of different regulations that we have to kind of abide by. So.
And would we have less regulations if it was more funded by city tax dollars as opposed to state and federal?
If we got rid of all the state and federal regulations, there would be a little bit less, yeah. However, ultimately, I guess why make the city citizens pay for all of the transportation needs when really the federal and state government is willing to help with that transportation need? So we want to, if we can get more local funds, then we can leverage for more federal and state. It's not really going to take away too much of the regulation, like all of the regulations, unless we get rid of all state and federal funding.
Okay.
Which is a lot of money.
Yeah, we were talking before the podcast about Claremont County. Is that right, Emily? They're Chillicothe, and I guess they have a sales tax, you said, for their transit, but we don't have that here in Wilmington.
Correct. So that would have to be voted on by the citizens of Wilmington. It would have to be put forth by the elected officials. I'm not sure that any elected officials really want to do that at this point.
Yeah, sure.
But it would help out quite a bit. So we are looking to work with Board of County Commissioners and then also some of the mayors of other townships and villages around the area, like Blanchester, Sabina, and just find out what we can do to help in the Clinton County area, but yet they're citizens for those townships.
When you say help, do you mean like if there would be a tax in those cities to help?
Not necessarily a tax, but maybe just if they have any funding whatsoever to help us to get out there.
Oh, okay.
So they might have like some funding to help out, or even they could apply for other grants. That's the other thing. They could apply for grants that could help them fund us to come there and help them get their citizens to and from Kroger or wherever, which we do that sometimes. Anyway.
Okay. So let's get into the drivers themselves. I understand that being a driver at the Wilmington Transit system is a part-time job, which means no benefits. So what kind of people tend to want to be drivers with the transit?
So currently we actually do have three full-time drivers, but everybody else is part-time. So most of our drivers are part-time retired employees that have worked. We have postal workers. We have people that have worked at like Aristide, just all different places, manufacturing, airborne. And these people, they've spent their lives working their butts off. And now they want to do a job that they can reach out to the community and help out in some way. So that kind of gives the gist of most of our employees. However, we do have quite a few employees that are just now hitting the workforce that are looking for something part-time because they have children and they want to be involved in their children's lives, but yet at the same time, they need the money. So they can be involved. They can have a different set of hours to where they're able to see their children when they need to. We're actually evolving a little bit more off of just the retired employees because really we don't necessarily have the ability to hire just retired employees. At this point in time, we don't have the staff. I guess we don't have the pool of whatever I'm trying to say.
The pool of workers
yes,
to pull from?
Workers to pull from.
The pool to pull from.
Yes. So with COVID happening, a lot of people aren't necessarily wanting to be out in the public all the time, transporting people. Who knows what they have, if they do have COVID, if they might have the flu, something along those lines, something that could potentially hurt somebody. So it's one of those situations.
Yeah, on the tour you gave us before the podcast, it did seem I could see where the concern would come from if someone got into the van who maybe had the flu or had COVID. Yeah. And you mentioned that as a public transportation system, you can't deny someone for any reason.
Correct.
So I can see an older population being concerned about those sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely concerning. So we do have protocols in place. There's a disinfectant spray that if we do confirm, because we are taking people to doctor's appointments. So if you suspect that you have COVID, you go to the doctor's appointment. If we know that you do have it, once you get out, you are confirmed, we are able to get those vehicles back, spray them down, but then they're out of commission for a period of time, which then the driver has to, get disinfected as much as possible, wear a mask for the rest of the day, that type of stuff. So it's difficult for us to either pull drivers off, pull vehicles off of the road. It's just, we don't always get that information up front from our customers, but we still have to take our customers to and from because they need service and they need that transportation too. So.
Have you noticed a decline in riders since COVID, or has it remained about the same?
We definitely had a decline in ridership. However, we are building back up, and we're looking to build up even further with our new programs that we're looking at putting out there. So,
okay. So typically we have a part at the end of the podcast, which we're going to do, but about concerns, misconceptions, and so forth. But since we're talking about drivers, I guess there's some grumbling in the community about drivers who are rude or reckless, but people who don't maybe know them, but just or don't interact with the transit other than just seeing the trucks on the road. Right. How do you respond to that? Or what's the deal there? I'm sure
So I do get complaints, and I obviously cannot do anything unless I actually get those complaints. So once I have somebody call me and tell me that there's something going on, I can review footage. So now we have cameras in each one of our vehicles, and I can go through the video footage, determine who it was, where it was. We have GPS, so I can narrow things down, and then I can base that information and go to the employee and either do a write-up, have a conversation with them, go through the process. With drivers, it's difficult sometimes because as a personal driver, maybe I think that I didn't do any wrong, but really the video footage shows that I might have cut this person off and maybe that's why they got irritated or whatever the situation may be. So it is nice to have the cameras because it helps not only my drivers, but it helps our transit system as a whole to be able to defend ourselves when something does happen, because my drivers are out there. They're out there every single day, all day long. If you've ever been in a car and had somebody act rude to you, imagine that for 8 hours a day. There's rude people every now and then. So
Yeah.
I think working with my employees and just reminding them that we are based off of customer service. Our image is here. You have to be good. This is not your personal vehicle. You cannot be mean to people. And just remind them that, the service that we are here to provide is to help people. It's just frustrating sometimes as a driver. You might have dealt with somebody that's really, really rude as a customer, and you leave that situation, and then you have another driver that's being rude or whatever, or you perceive it to be rude. So, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, and I have to take that in consideration with my drivers. But at the same time, I expect them to have good customer service. So we are working on that. I can't fire somebody just because they're rude every now and then.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we have some great drivers out there. So.
Yeah, we got to give people grace.
Yeah. And we're constantly, you would not believe some of the accidents that we've prevented. We had somebody going the wrong way down a one-way street. We had a green light, and our driver stopped just in the nick of time before, plowing right into this person. They would have been a horrible accident. And of course, I get notifications from our artificial intelligence on our GPS and our cameras, and it notifies me of hard braking, hard acceleration, there is an accident, things like that. So it's really nice to have that backup now, whereas we didn't have that previously.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was at the gym last week, and I guess there was a bus driver that got charges because he slammed his brakes on to hurt a student or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was on national news, I guess, but it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
But it's cool that we have our own security cameras here.
Yeah.
To maintain quality and stuff.
So when people call the transit, do they get so if I called the transit right now and was like, I need to picked up from the Church of Christ and taken to Make Shark, would I get would it just be me on that ride, or is there a possibility that there could be other people on that ride as well?
You can book as many people as you need. So currently our vans only hold 5 people. However, we do have big buses that hold up to 8. So if you have a group of 8 people and you need that ride, you can call in 8 people. If we have the ability to do that, we will do it. If we don't have the ability to do it with one vehicle, we can send more. We have worked with the farmers market, like I said before, and we work with Prairie View Apartments, and they have a program where they get elderly people, I believe it's a grant through the farmers market, they get some elderly people to actually go to the farmers market. They give them a certain amount of money and help them out with different things. And we've actually booked the transportation for them, and we've sent, if there's handicap accessibility, wheelchairs, then we might have to send 2 vehicles. If we have 2 handicapped people and 7 other people, we can only fit so many on one van. So we'll send extra vehicles if we need to. But yeah, you can book for as many people as you need.
That's cool how you're partnering with other groups in town to get people up to places. Did you mean though, would you want to be alone? You want to?
Yeah. So if you picked somebody else up first and I happen to be on that route, would they stop and then I would ride with somebody random, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. So we do. We do the ride share, basically. Mm-hmm. It's not all the time, but if we can, we will, as long as it makes sense. Right now, we're not very busy today. So we might be able to just come pick you up, take you straight to where you need to go, and drop you off. On the beginning of the month, those are the busiest days that we have. It's usually the busiest weekend, and it's craziness is what it is. So we would probably end up picking you up, or picking somebody else up and then picking you up and taking you and dropping you off, or dropping somebody else off first, or whatever the deal might be, and you do a ride share. So you might be on the vehicle for a little bit longer than normal, but that's public transit. So
Emily's just very antisocial and just wants to make sure she's riding by herself.
Yeah, you're sitting over here talking about being a driver and everything that goes into it. I'm like, let me add that to the list of jobs I do not care to do.
Oh my gosh. So we talked about drivers. Let's talk about riders a bit more. I know you mentioned it for a second, but who tend to be the type of people that you serve most?
Well, I would say that most of our riders are elderly. We have quite a few people with disabilities. Anybody that might be in a wheelchair, anybody that might have mental disability, we are able to help them to be able to get them to and from work. One of the things that I really like about this job is going out and assisting with. Fridays are our worst days to not have enough drivers, and then also to be just kind of bombarded with a lot of rides because everybody wants to go out on Friday night. So Friday afternoon, evening, and then also, we have drivers that just aren't able to make it on Fridays or whatever the schedule might be. So I get to go out a lot of times on Fridays and meet new people. And it's really interesting to see the customer base and see how great people are. We just have people that, I don't know how to put it. They're very kind. Like there's a lot of kind-hearted people that you can tell are very guarded because they don't know how other people are going to react to them. But once you start talking to them, it's usually the elderly and disabled that are just absolutely sweet. And they really want to talk to you, and they don't have that many people to talk to maybe. So they want to get out there and they want to socialize as much as possible. This might be the only person they talk to all day or for a couple of days. So our customer base is wide. We do, we take anybody and everybody wherever they need to go. For the most part, we can only stay within the state of Ohio. That is one of our guidelines. So a lot of times we'll take people to the Columbus airport, the Dayton airport. Those are special, and you do have to book those ahead of time, and it has to be within our business hours. But
how much is that trip to the airports?
One of them is $50, one of them is $100, depending on the mileage. Well, I mean, it's really not bad if you're calling for a private transportation. It's going to be a lot more expensive. So
I guess you don't got to drop your car off, and you don't have to pay for parking. Right. So it adds up.
Yep. But we serve anybody and everybody that needs a ride. A lot of times, people that have their vehicle in a shop will utilize us to take them either from the shop to home or from home to go pick up their car. We take people to the grocery stores and just...
If I was someone who has never used the transit before but just wanted to use it for some reason, like you said, like my car broke down or whatever, could I just call and book it right then and there? Do I need to pay in advance? How does payment work for that?
So we currently are on cash basis only. So you would call ahead of time. You would call the dispatch number, book the ride. When we get there to pick you up, you would have to pay cash at that point. The fares currently are $2 for anywhere in town and $1 per mile outside of town. So if you're going 3 miles outside of town, it would be your $2 fare plus the $3, $5 to get there. So It's not too expensive. And then if you are one of our elderly and disabled, you do have to fill out a form, get a specialized card. It would only be $1 fare.
Yeah, you said that the state supplements some of that. Correct. For those people.
Yeah, the state has its own E&D grant that they supplement. So based on however many riders we had last year for the E&D riders, then they supplement that and pay us for the following year.
Is there any rider stories you could share with us? I know we went to that meeting and people spoke out about how this has affected them and helped them out. Is there any that stand out to you that you could share? With their full name and their address and their social security number too. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. So we do keep people's information private. We do have a lot of customers. I can say one that this one customer of ours uses us for everything. So just imagine not being able to go to visit your family. Not being able, I mean, some people might enjoy that. But, you're not able to go visit your family. You're not able to go visit your friends because you don't have a vehicle. You don't have the means to be able to get there. You're not able to see properly to be able to drive yourself. So this one person in particular uses us for everything. To get to the grocery store, to get to the doctor's appointments, to go to see the family members, to be able to come back from family members, just going to Easter Sunday, I mean, it's one of those situations where on Easter, we actually close down. And that is a problem sometimes because, our employees need to see their families as well. But these customers, they want to see their families, and it's kind of one of those things we have to let them know ahead of time that, this is what we're doing. We're closing down on Easter Sunday because our families, our employees are going to see their families. So they have to find other means of transportation. And it's difficult this one customer in particular, it's difficult for them to be able to maneuver around as well. So once we do drop them off, it is a door-to-door service. So our drivers do help them to the door, and we're not supposed to go through the door. There's a difference there.
Okay.
We help with groceries. So if we pick somebody up at Kroger, we will help get their groceries loaded into the vehicles. We're not mandated to help with that. A lot of services and systems around the area, definitely the rural transit systems, do not help with groceries. They do not load your groceries. You are actually mandated to hold whatever groceries that you have in your lap while you're on the transit vehicle. And we don't have that at this time because we have a lot of people that do their main shopping at the beginning of the month or at the middle of the month or at the end of the month, and they need to go get everything they possibly can to last them for a month. So we try to help our customers out as much as possible. We try to, we have a couple of drivers that are absolutely amazing at doing that. They will load the groceries into the vehicle. They will load the groceries, inside the door. Not through the door, inside the door, stand down, and help people carry, pop, water, whatever it needs to be, to wherever it needs to go, just to help people out. So we have a lot of great drivers and a lot of great customers.
Yeah, for all the complaining and that was not me farting. It was the chair. I swear to God.
I'm gonna get muted.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a sound effect with that just so it's even worse.
He did once tell the entire listening audience where he lived in accordance to Domino's.
Yeah. Anyways, so for all of the talk in town about drivers being rude, I hear a lot from different people in the city and individuals too of how helpful the drivers are to them with things like loading the groceries from Kroger into their house and stuff. So
we've had people commend your service and dedication to service on the podcast before.
Yeah, I think we have some great drivers and we really do have a great service. It's just trying to make it work better for everybody. And, obviously there's always going to be complaints. No matter what you do, you can't be perfect. We're not trying to be perfect. There's one person that's perfect. So we're all just trying to do our best.
She's talking about me.
Exactly it.
Just farted.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Yeah. So what's the most rewarding part of your job?
I'd say the most rewarding part of my job is just trying to help people, knowing that on a daily basis we are helping people, whether or not you get yelled at or screamed at that day or whatever the situation may be. I try to tell my children the same thing, and that's everybody's going through something. You don't know what somebody else is going through. So at that point in time, it's great to see some of these people and what they are going through and how they're dealing with life and how you are helping them to make their life easier and to make it better. So I think that's the most rewarding part, is just knowing that I am helping. And it might not necessarily be me out there loading their groceries, but I am helping to get the best employees I can possibly get to help do this. And I'm working on rules and regulations and keeping the place afloat, because without the grants, without the funding, we don't have Wilmington Transit. Without, the mayor, without the city employees up there helping us, fighting for us, getting our budgets approved, whether it be HR, whether it be the auditor's office, we have so many people backing us, helping us, just allowing us to do our job. So that way we can help the citizens to do whatever they need to do, whether it be doctor's appointments or just going to the park. I mean, how would you like to be a 5-year-old with a single mother that's not able to take their children out and go do things? They don't have, the ability to drive somewhere. And then, we're able to take them to the park. It's a simple thing, but kids need that. So yeah, I'm glad that we can provide it.
On the flip side, what are some of the most challenging parts of your jobs?
All those things I just listed.
Yeah, I figured. Okay.
Giving the grace to myself and to everybody else. That's probably the most challenging part. It's difficult on a daily basis to be the person that has to say, hey, you messed up. I have to talk to them. I have to tell them that they can't do this. I know somebody was rude to you, but you can't do that to them. Again, it's like the things I tell my children, just you have to give other people grace because you don't know what's going to happen. So that's the most challenging part as well. Just dealing with that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard working with the public. Any job, whether you're flipping burgers or doing public transportation,
Right.
like when you work with the public, like it's anything can happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we've had a few things.
so let's talk about some upcoming projects you are working on. Last week, you had a public meeting to share some of the things you're working on and get some feedback and address a lot of issues at one time as opposed to doing it like piecemeal with some of the changes that you're trying to make. So what are some of the issues that you're trying to address with your new system? And then what is the new system?
So we have piecemealed some things. With every situation, you can't fix everything all at once. But one of the things that we have fixed is the cameras. We did have cameras previously, and they were not operating properly. So we do now have cameras that are in real time. I can see them at any point in time via my phone. I have employees that are able to do the same thing. It gives us artificial intelligence to help us to know where our vehicles are with the GPS and then tell us if there's a major issue. That being said, that was one of the major things that we had to have fixed. And the next thing that we are working on is the dispatch system. We know that our hours are an issue. We want to be able to expand our hours and help more people. So the public meeting is one of the things that we're going through all the different processes and regulations with the state of Ohio, FTA, all that kind of stuff. RLS it's RLS and Associates who's doing the study itself. And with our help a little bit and the citizens here, but we're trying to find out, what do we need? We know we need longer hours. We know we need to be more efficient to help people out. Nobody should be waiting for an hour to 2 hours to get a ride. It throws your day off. It throws your appointments off. There's all kinds of stuff. So some of the things that we're currently working on is getting that dispatch system up and running. However, last time we had a dispatch system, it did not work well. So what we're trying to do is fix all of the kinks all in one.
What's the last time you had a system like that?
It was in 2018.
Okay.
So that system itself, we went to possibly reutilize that system, and the amount of money to fix it was not worth it. So we decided to go with something that fit the city a little bit better and fit the needs that we knew we needed. So we did a lot of investigation on this. We went through all different dispatch systems, found out the perks, found out the flaws. We talked to a lot of other transit systems within the state of Ohio and figured out what worked best for them and what did not work, because there were a lot of aspects that don't fit this city. Like, we're one of the only cities that has mostly on demand. We don't have set fixed routes, whereas most cities have that, even in the rural. So what we're trying to do is we want to make sure that we are set up for the future, not just for today to fix today's issues. We want to make sure that if we decide to have fixed routes, that we have a system that's going to allow us to move to that. So the dispatch system itself is something that our customers would be able to log onto a portal, use their login, and they could book a ride. So it's as simple as like Uber, Lyft, things like that. It makes it to where you can get a text message whenever your ride is on its way. It helps you to do reminders the day before that, hey, you have a pickup at 7 a.m. for work, things like that. Things that help our customers, that help us, and then also can eventually move us down the road to being able to take credit card, being able to take gift card, doing bus passes, things that currently, with us being cash-based only, we have to turn down rides sometimes because people don't have cash to give us. They want us to take them to the bank, and we can't take them to the bank because the state of Ohio regulates that we have to be paid at the time of pickup, not at the time of drop-off, just in case people don't have the money.
There was some pushback to some of this at that meeting. So you still have the ability to call in, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then the other pushback was some of the older people might not know how to use that. But then someone said that with the ability to do it on your phone, it gave them almost more autonomy because they don't have to ask someone else to call for them. They can just do it themselves.
Right. Yeah, we're not taking away the system that's already there. Like, we still have call takers, we still have dispatchers. It's still going to be, you're still going to be able to call in and do the normal process. The difference is going to be that with the phones, if you get caught in the phone system and you can't get through and you're calling and waiting for, 10, 15 minutes, it gets aggravating. So in order to alleviate the phone issue, some of the people can go online, book online, and then that alleviates the phone issue where we open up the phone lines a little bit more for the people that need to use the phone to call.
Because you only have one dispatch person or one phone person, right?
Well, we actually have two.
Okay.
And we can open up the phone lines to anybody in the back area.
Okay.
We can log into that number, and then we can accept phone calls as well, which we do. And whenever we're super busy, we try to help out. It's not always possible, and it's not always one of those situations where we know that they're that busy at that point. So it just kind of depends on the day and the situation. So
yeah.
The idea of gift cards is super appealing.
Yeah.
Somebody who's going to travel for the holidays, you take care of their transportation via gift card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you pre-pick the route so I can get a route for Emily to go to a mental hospital and just one way ticket? She gets there and she's like, what is this?
So if you log into Emily's account and put it up, then yeah, you can potentially do that.
Okay. JK. That's a serious topic, but I'm just joking. So you did mention to have fixed routes, like a loop system. Mm-hmm. Where are you guys at with that? What's the thinking behind that?
So we are waiting for the transit study to come out before we determine a set route. We have to have approval through the ODOT, which it would most likely be a pilot program. So we would test it out for approximately a year to 2 years, depending upon what gets approved. We can't just make changes and say, this is what we're going to do, surprise. We have to go through a whole lot of different things, like a public meeting, and then also just inform people of when things are going to happen. The general public needs to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it. Because if we don't inform them, then obviously who's going to sit out there and wait on a bus that's never going to show up? So we're working now on getting signage so that we would be able to, we're working with another city department to get signage for different locations. So like Kroger, we don't have 10 people waiting on this side of the building and one person waiting on this side of the building. We have one direct location. This is where you go to get picked up by Wilmington Transit Systems, or WTS. We're trying to simplify. So this is where you go to get picked up by WTS, and then we will take you home. This is your bus stop. So other cities have bus stops. We do not. We're just kind of scattered. So a lot of our people that we miss the rides, it's because they're on one side of the building and we're on another side of the building, or they ran back in to go get gum, or they went to do something. And we're trying to make it more efficient to where we're not missing those rides. Because if we miss that ride, we wait our 5 minutes and they don't show up, we leave. If we leave, we go pick somebody else up, they call back 5 minutes later and say, I need this ride. Well, you missed your other ride, so it's difficult, because at what point do you say, okay, we're just not going to pick you up anymore? Well, I just, it was an emergency. Everybody, like I said, give people grace. Mm-hmm. You have to give them the grace and say, okay, there was a mistake made, let's fix this. Yeah. So I think the dispatch system will help us in fixing a lot of this stuff and a lot of the issues that we've had.
Did you mention that the dispatch system is supposed to have a GPS locator so you can see when your ride's getting closer?
Yep. So if you booked a ride and it should be here soon, you should get a text message. You can click on that text message whenever they're 5 minutes out. Click on it and you can actually track them. Okay. It'll be on a map to show you where they are and when they're getting there. So it'll help in actually locating your person to your ride. So
nice.
Domino's pizza tracker,
right? Do they track where you deliver you?
So something else that you guys talked about at your last meeting was access to the county. Mm-hmm. So what would that look like, and what's the current state of that? Because you currently do rides anywhere, right, outside of Wilmington, but it's just more money, right?
Yes. So the way that it works out is that if you start a ride in the city of Wilmington, we can take you anywhere in the state of Ohio, technically speaking, if we're available. We're not always available. If you call us and say you want to go up to Sandusky, we might not have somebody to do that. However, within the county, yes, it's usually 100% available. So the problem is that we can only take you from the city of Wilmington. It has to originate in the city of Wilmington to that location. So if you want us to drop you off and then come pick you up in 2 hours, we can't do that because it's not originating in the city of Wilmington. So we have had to do situations where we're taking somebody to an appointment in Hillsborough. We'll actually originate in Wilmington, take them to Hillsborough for their appointment and wait on them. So you do have to pay for waits. It's not free because we have an employee there. So we do charge for that and we wait on them for an hour or so and then we take them back home. But that's the only way to kind of get around the situation so that people can still get back home. And unfortunately, I mean, we're still a business. We still have to charge. We can't just do it for free. So.
And what are people wanting with the more county services? So with service, like it would have more of a presence in like Blanchester and Sabina than just like going and coming back. Like they would have their own maybe system or own.
Yeah, I believe I'm working on reaching out to the mayor of Blanchester and Sabina to determine what their needs are, because that's part of the needs study. Is we're going to continue to follow up with them and see what are their needs. Do they want to apply for a grant? Do they want our help with the mobility manager to help them apply for these grants, to help us, to help them? I feel like joining the choir. But we're trying to figure out what their needs are. We know that we have elderly and disabled people in Blanchester that don't have the ability to get a ride to Kroger. I mean, we have those calls currently. If we're not busy and we're able to do it, we will help as much as possible. We're not always able to do it. That's the problem. If we're busy, our main focus is the city of Wilmington. We are Wilmington Transit. So we're going to help the citizens of Wilmington first and foremost. If we can go outside of that and we can expand, that's what we want to do. So with the dispatch system allowing us to be more efficient within the city limits, that's going to give us extra drivers and extra vehicles. So having extra drivers and extra vehicles then allows us to expand to the county and say, okay, Blanchester, do you need one van to make routes or make a route? Or do you need somebody that's going to take you from Blanchester to Wilmington and do a route like that on maybe once a week or twice a week, something along those lines? It just kind of depends on what the needs are. So we're going to continue to reach out and figure out what the needs are, and then we're going to do our best to address them.
Was there anything else that you're looking into besides the fixed route and more county access?
Employment. So the access to the workforce community or the workforce collaborative, working with the employers around here, because we already take so many employees to and from work, all the industrial places around here. So what we would like to do is actually be able to help, because there are people that have a need for third shift. They need to be taken back home. They need to be taken to work, whatever the situation may be. And it's not right for them to have to walk. That's obviously a need. Definitely if they live in the city limits and they're out, by airborne or Amazon. So it's one of those situations that we need to be able to expand our hours. We need to be able to expand our routes, our service area. But in order to do that, we have to have this study. So that's why we're working.
You have to have the study to show the state and show FTAs, that you said, that that's actually a need that you need funding for.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah. What is RLS?
RLS is it's a contracting. It's like a consultant.
Did we hire them, or did the state hire them, or how did they get involved?
So the way this worked out, in 2021, before I got here, the previous interim director had applied for a grant. It's called the OTP2 grant. It's for facility updates, which we kind of talked about, the facility updates that we're doing to our facility. And then also it included a study. So the thing is that the way that it was applied, it didn't work out in our favor. We didn't have the additional city funding to allow us to be able to do all the projects that were listed that we received all the funding for. So ODOT was able to allow us to reallocate some of the money and take out the study. So we took out the study. That was a portion of it. We took out a few other projects, and we reallocated that money to help us pay for more of the cost for our other projects. And then also, in addition to that, we were able to get some of the funding through the city through the next year, which is this year. So we can actually get some of the projects done. That being said, we still needed this study. So we reached out to ODOT. They have an RTAP fund, which is it's Ohio's fund to help out and do technical assistance. So when I first got here, they helped train me on what are some of the things that I need to know as a director. What are some things that my administrative team needs to know in order to be able to better serve the city of Wilmington, but also the state of Ohio, to make sure that we're dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's. So they went through with this and showed us all the different things that we needed to do, but they also had extra money for transit studies. So we requested that, they provided, and so now we are basically getting it for free. It's taxpayer dollars, so nothing's really free, but it is coming from the state of Ohio, a lot of amount of money. So it is in addition to our actual grant funds, if that makes sense.
Probably didn't cue this up for like listeners, but like RLS was the company that is like leading this survey, right, for us.
Correct.
So they were the ones that led the last meeting and will lead the next few meetings in the survey and stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
So they are the consultant that ODOT hires to actually do the study.
Okay. When is the next public meeting?
It is not scheduled yet.
Okay.
We're going to go through meeting with RLS to go over some of the information that we already have. We're going to be getting out the surveys that we talked about at the study or at the meeting. And then we're going to be doing the job fair on May 3rd. So we're going to be reaching out there as well. And RLS will be there reaching out. So that way we can get more surveys back and get more information. At that point, once they get all that information back, that's when we'll know a little bit further. We're also going to be working to set up meetings right now with the mayor of Blanchester, the mayor of Sabina, and just the smaller towns around here. So that way RLS can find out the actual needs. So
Yeah.
I think that answers it.
So the last part of the podcast is criticism and misconceptions. So one of the misconceptions that I had was that Uber and Lyft are not available in Wilmington because one of my friends constantly tells me that. So I spoke up at the meeting and sound like a big idiot.
Everybody thinks so.
Yeah.
You didn't.
So yeah, so Uber, and then I checked it there. Like I could get an Uber in Wilmington. I don't know who like is saying you can't do that, but
everybody is saying that. So we had this talk in our office right before this meeting, because it was being put out on Facebook again that you couldn't get an Uber and a Lyft, and that the city was actually preventing Uber and Lyft from coming to this city. That's not true. So we can't prevent somebody else from coming into the city and saying, "Hey, I want to help out." Like, it's just free enterprise.
Well, there is some cities that do, but we're not one of them, I guess.
No,
yeah.
Well, the state of Ohio actually went over our heads and made this, mandated it. So if Uber wants to be here, they can be here.
Okay. Glad to squash that rumor then. Another rumor that I heard from somewhere is that the transit company recently fired their cleaning company and some of the vans have fleas now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a fun one. So as far as I know, we do not have any fleas.
Yeah.
It is on a case-by-case basis. We do spray our vans out if we know that somebody has had bed bugs or any situation like that. We cannot discriminate and say that we are not going to transport you because you have this, that, or whatever. If we do know about it, we will definitely take care of the situation. But again, we can't say, I can't transport you because you have this situation. It's against the law.
Do you guys have a cleaning company? Because it seemed like you guys have your own car wash and the drivers clean the vans out after every ride, right? Or after every time they're back in the station.
So I'm assuming the rumor that that you're hearing is that we got rid of Aramark. Aramark, we were paying for uniforms, which, as you could see, we have new uniforms. So we went through a different company. We purchased uniforms instead of renting them. And then, yes, we did get rid of them for our bathroom services, but we were purchasing bathroom supplies from them. They weren't doing any service for us. They were just bringing the supplies there. So, we were able to get a discounted rate somewhere else. And so that's what we did. And we do have a laborer who actually just moved up to a crew leader. So we had that position as a laborer to help us clean the vehicles, to help us clean the facility, to help us do the landscaping outside. So it is a laborer position that helps us do all that kind of stuff. So we may be looking for a new laborer soon. Our laborer currently is in an interim position as the crew leader. So it depends on how that works out.
Yeah, labor is such a weird title. It's just like the most basic thing you could say about somebody. You are labor.
We do have a part-time laborer as well that I had mentioned previously.
Yeah.
He's been there for a long period of time. And he does help us in the mornings to basically help us maintain the vehicles themselves.
And he's like your groundskeeper too, right?
He helps out with that as well.
A lot of things.
Yep.
Cool.
There's a lot of facility to maintain there.
Yeah. What are some of the stigmas with public transportation? That maybe are not true, obviously.
Well, there's always going to be a stigma. We can only keep our vehicles as clean as we can keep them. So I don't know if anybody has kids out there, but I can clean my vehicle and 5 minutes later, my kids have destroyed it. So it's just kind of one of those situations where every day before our employees take their vehicles out, they wash their vehicles, they vacuum out the inside, they sweep them out. It's part of their pre-inspection. So they're making sure the turn signals are working, light bulbs are working. They do a full inspection, including oil, including windshield washer fluid. So they have to make sure everything works on their vehicles. We're trying to make sure that we maintain our vehicles to the best possible standard that we possibly can. Are there situations where we take vehicles out because we need a vehicle and it's not a safety issue? Yeah, there's times. It might not look pretty, but it functions and it does the job that needs to be done. And if we don't have that vehicle out there, then somebody's not going to get to work. Somebody's not going to get to a doctor's appointment. So we are working to maintain them better, to keep them in a better shape for everyone. Because nobody wants to ride in a vehicle that makes noises. Yeah. Although public transportation, we have to have ramps in all of our minivans, like you guys saw, and those ramps make noises because they don't lock in very well. But so there are some stigmas that are true, and there are some stigmas that just ride with us. And you can see,
yeah.
I mean, our drivers, I think one of them is that our drivers aren't very nice. Yeah. But I think most of our drivers are nice all the time. There might be a day where somebody's off. I'm not going to lie. But for the most part, we have great drivers, and some of them can't hear very well. So they sound like they're yelling at you, and they're not.
Yikes.
That's just how they talk.
They're just tuning you out.
A sign up that says hard of hearing and not yelling for anger.
I actually had a call about him the other day.
Oh, wow.
And so this guy yelled at me, and I'm like, I know who you're talking about. He did not yell at you. That's just the way he talks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, he's hard of hearing sometimes. So you get what you get,
Is there any rules against if like Emily and I wanted to take a transit ride and film it for people on our Facebook page? Is there a rule against that?
I don't know that there is.
I thought we would slander you, but we would just try to show people like, hey, this is how it actually works. This is like this guy, and
yeah, no, I don't think there's anything.
We might try that. We might try that. That guy. Oh my gosh. Is there anything else that you want people to know about that we didn't discuss?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, but just want people to really understand, maybe go out and look and watch some of the transit vehicles and see. We're so judgmental sometimes about who we're picking up. And really, everybody is, one paycheck shy of being in that same situation.
The drivers are judgmental, or the community is?
The community is. I think sometimes our drivers are too. They have a tendency, but everybody is. I mean, everybody has their preset notions of how life should be. And if somebody is off their preset notions, then it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, oh, does this person do this, or does this person do this? You don't know everybody's situation. You just have to help them in the situation that you can help them with. And I think that's where having some of the community go out and actually see what our employees are doing, I think it would be beneficial, because there's a lot of people that just to get a little personal here, my grandparents are getting older. They now have dementia. They're not able to take care of themselves. I am personally helping to do that. So if there's a situation where my grandparents would be able to ride Wilmington Transit and get from point A to point B, and I don't have to take off work to go do that, I think that that's helpful. That's helping the whole entire family, not just that one person. That's helping generations. So to me, it kind of hits home.
It's also helping the community in that kind of scenario as well. You don't have people with dementia wandering the streets
or driving,
going into traffic.
Oh, yeah, yikes.
Whenever you have dementia, you don't realize that you can't do certain things. And, you know, we have a lot of retirement communities around here. We have places like Brightview that help people to just try to get them back on their feet. We have places like, you know, Sugar Tree Ministries that are trying to help people get back on their feet. Are there going to be preset notions on everything? Yes, there are. But for every 10 people that don't fix their lives this year, they might fix it next year. And we might have one person that fixes it this year. So if we can help that, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, to your point, I think something that helps with some of the preconceived notions and stuff is just getting engaged with things. Like taking a ride in the transit would be a perfect next step for someone to see like what it's actually like, or talk to someone who uses it and see how it helps their life, as opposed to just getting your road rage and like saying, I hate this thing. But it actually helps a lot of people in our community have happy lives. So
right.
Cool. Thanks for being on our podcast.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for our episode with Jessica Powell over at the Wilmington Transit System. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to her directly. We'll have her contact information in the show notes. As a reminder, our paper is out still at Kroger, UDF, the coffee shops, and Sam's Meats, thanks to me and Emily. I was going to give you credit for Sam's Meats, but I was the one that talked to Rana and asked her. I just laid on the charm. Rana,
I was too busy
please.
eating my fish.
Yeah, Emily did get us the hookup though with the other ones. So anyways, get our paper before it's out of stock and you gotta wait till June for the next one. Anything else, Emily?
Oh yes, follow us on Facebook. We're up to 25 subscribers on YouTube.
Nice. That's all Emily's baby over there. So
You couldn't even social media if you try. Get on my level, scrub.
wow, yikes.
Get fired.
All the people that think I'm so mean to in the podcast, this is what I have to deal with, and now they know. Now it's recorded.
Are you just crying?
Yeah, please. I'll start a GoFundMe for all the abuse that Emily dishes out to me. All right, so with that, I'm your host, Dustin Pierce.
And I'm Emily Spencer.
Keep it real, Wilmington.